takes a long time for it to get going there. Why, I don't know. Wish I knew myself.
You don't know yourself?
Well, I know myself, that's for shizzle there. What's up, Ark? Everything going good with you, bud?
I suppose.
You suppose? Oh, man. Well, we are live here, ladies and gentlemen. We got a Wrestlemaniax going on right now on my channel. I'm here with Arknoy Strokebean, the Mighty YR, and Prince Idol. He's on the call just as well there. Is Prince there? Can you hear me, Prince? Prince. Jesus Christ, dude. Prince. Oh, there you go. I hear myself in the background there. My bad. Now, let me take a couple of things off my other phone here, my work phone, basically. All right, Prince, are you there, man? Prince. He's muted again, and YR is muted just as well. So, anyways, we'll begin the show here.
Go ahead.
There you are. All right, can we get Prince get unmuted, please? All right. Now, the purpose of this show is basically, to discuss ideas on how to make pro wrestling great once more. And this came about from a podcast that Vince Russo did a couple years ago, requesting Vince McMahon, who's now, of course, the executive chairman of WWE, to simply make wrestling popular once again. Because Raw for the past upteen years was in that PG stage, where the storylines were weak, the action was weak, every storyline was predictable. It's like nothing really was popping, nothing really was happening. They tried several attempts in the past to make it more interesting again, but the only thing we got was a flip off from one of the members of the New Day to Brock Lesnar. And that was about it. And occasional holy shit during the some battle when one of the wrestlers went through one of the Titatron devices there. But that was pretty much about it. Other than that, it's been like so and so.
Well, basically, from what I've read, because I haven't watched Raw, or I haven't watched AEW at all, and I haven't watched Raw in years. But from what I read, that tribal thing they were doing in Raw was actually pretty compelling.
Which one?
What I was reading.
The Bloodline?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I guess, that group is now no more, I guess, because of the breakup between Roman Reigns and the Usos. That was pretty popular. And also keep in mind, this is the reason why it's doing so well is because of Triple H, Paul Levesque, being the chief content officer, I guess it's called there. Now, because Triple H became head of creative and content because obviously Vince McMahon was doing all that, but he retired last year unexpectedly when it was revealed that he had been apparently paying some hush-hush money to one of the female employees. Apparently, according to rumors and speculations, he was apparently having a secret affair with this female employee. And I guess the board of directors, decided, to put the case on rest for the time being, make it a cold case, of course. When this happened, there was a big hullabaloo. Stephanie McMahon became co-CEO, along with a dude named Nick Khan. Triple H was promoted back to his position, or actually a better position, Chief Content Officer, head of creative just as well. And I guess it fits to say that under his direction, the WWE is slowly getting back to where it should be. Selling out arenas, selling merchandise, doing all sorts of good things there. And it fits to say that both the Judgment Day and the Bloodline was actually two of the big reasons why the WWE is getting popular once again. But for a long while, the storylines were like boring. It was wishy-washy. I mean, I even made comments a couple times that, some of the dialogue, some of the promos that the wrestlers were given, or superstars as they prefer to call it, were kind of like similar to the dialogue in that show Super Friends. It's kind of like the Saturday morning cartoon phase when it comes to dialogue.
Well, basically, it boils down to one person says, "I'll beat you," and the other one says, "No, you won't. I'll beat you," and that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, pretty much there. They could throw a few words here and there that's somewhat creative, somewhat unexpectedly. But however, it's just been same old, and nothing really has changed for how many years there. I mean, like Joe Cronin, when he does his Raw review, he always complains about it being boring and sucky ass and everything else. He says the same thing about SmackDown for a while there, just as well. There was a lot of complaints about whether their pay-per-views. People were so pissed off at the ending of the main event that one WWE fan smashed his replica WWE belt onto the ground. He was so pissed off, Many people complaining that the WWE ain't what it used to be. In fact, you look at the comments of some of the old wrestling shows from the territory days, like Georgia Championship Wrestling or Portland Wrestling, they'll say in the comments, so this is 20 times better than what the WWE has been giving us. Now, we're going to add our suggestions to how to make wrestling great again. And one of the things I would like to do for we begin here is start acknowledging, start taking care of some of the mistakes that have been made in the past. Now, one person that needs to be brought up is Pat Patterson, who, as you know, came out of the closet on that WWE reality show, House of Legends, along with Hillbilly Jim, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Howard Finkel, their famed announcer, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He came out of the closet saying that he was a gay man all his life. And it fits to say that WWE should now at least owe an apology to some of the former wrestlers of that company who Pat Patterson has apparently messed with sexually in the past. One of them being Eddie Mansfield, who I spoke of one time before there. He did an interview with ABC News detailing that one of the executives was gay and wanted to sleep with him. Mansfield said, "Nope, ain't gonna do that. That's against my beliefs. I'm not that kind of a person. I don't swing that way, unfortunately." And as a result of him saying no, not only did he get punished, he got let go from the company and just about lost everything there. And apparently he revealed the secrets of pro wrestling on that same report as a payback for the WWF for doing that to him. Now, Vince McMahon denied all that stuff there, of course. They kept that secret for years. There was a lot of rumors, allegations that one of the guys was apparently Rowdy Roddy Piper himself that apparently got fondled or molested by Pat Patterson. But the thing that drives me up the wall is that why did the WWE allow this to go on for so long without putting their foot down? But yet, because you may remember, Mandy Rose, one of the hottest gals in the female roster of both WWE and NXT. She was an NXT Women's Champion for a long time there. Many people were giving her praise for her heel character and her hot looks there. I mean, when you look at this gal, you'll be like, damn, she is hot as hell. They let her go a long while back there because of content she was putting on her thing called Fan Time, which is kind of like an alternative to OnlyFans. Now, whether this included nudity or whichever there is up in the air. I've yet to see any of these photos that she did for that page there. But, it's kind of awkward is that they'll let go of her for doing that. But yet they'll also allow Paige to wrestle for a brief time there after that sex tape of her came out. Lord banging Brad Maddox and one of the members of the New Day. I know if it was Kofi Kingston or whoever there.
I think it was Xavier Woods.
Xavier Woods, yeah, that was Xavier Woods. Thank you. That kind of caused a damaging blow to the WWE, because you remember for many years WWE was listed as family entertainment. They have there was a publicly traded company for many years. If it still went back to public is anybody's guess at the moment. That's what I've heard around the rumor circuit. If anybody was going to do that much damage to that company, they would be gone within a heartbeat. But Paige stayed up until her career-ending injury. Of course, she came back. She was cleared to wrestle again, but she went with AEW under her new name, Soraya, which is her real first name. And I'm going to start the conversation with something that I guess everybody else would agree that one of the things that kind of like lowered the respect of wrestling was, of course, the breaking of kayfabe. And the kayfabe rule, as you know, is where you are not to reveal the secrets. You are supposed to be real. You're supposed to make everybody presume that the fighting in the ring was real. You have to do what you can to protect the business. Dr. D. David Schultz, he risked his job protecting the business when he slapped the smack out of John Stossel. You may remember that incident. I spoke about it a few times in the past. You remember that thing from 1985 on ABC's 2020 there, Ark?
Yep.
Yes, and as a result from that, John Stossel would lose some of his hearing. He would have hearing damage. He would take the WWF, at the time it was called, to court, win tons of money there, and Dr. D would eventually get fired from the company. And for what I understand, he now earns his paycheck as a bounty hunter. He even mentioned that on the Morton Downey Jr. show back in around 1988 when they were discussing pro wrestling. And he went off on Eddie Mansfield for exposing the business. He even threw a drink in Mansfield's face, saying that Mansfield just didn't want to work. He didn't want to do anything. He was just a white baby, cry baby, such and such, But throughout the years, we have seen pro wrestlers appear on TV shows, do podcasts, do a lot of shows of their own, Twitch streaming. Paige and AJ Styles did that. Aleister Black and his wife Zelina Vega have done that in the past. And that was during the pandemic back in 2020. Then all of a sudden Vince McMahon decides to put his foot down and try to put that to a stop. And Paige was very shooken up over that because at that time that was her only way of earning money. Remember, she had her damaged neck. She wasn't able to do anything. She said she was still employed with WWE, but that's what we do not know during that time. So eventually she said, screw this company, I'm going with AEW. I just got cleared. Yay, I can wrestle again, but not for the WWE. And YR just left the call.
Well, Prince is here. But
yeah, no, Prince, but he's on mute. Prince, get off the mute, okay, and join in the conversation. Okay? I'm the only one the mostly doing the talking. I'm going to shut up and let Ark give his ideas of what needs to be done to make wrestling good again.
Or talk about what's bad.
Or talk about, we could talk about what's bad with wrestling and how to correct those mistakes,
Well, one of the things I've heard about AEW, and like I said, I've never seen it, is that they dwell more on just having matches and they don't develop stories at all.
That's true.
Or nothing major. It just match after match after match, which, the wrestling marks love.
Yep.
But
The
you aren't
casuals.
going to get the casual people because there's nothing for them to watch.
Yeah, that's true there. Whereas the WWF back in the day was like full blown, ready to go. And one of the reasons why the Attitude Era was so big as it was at that time is that it related to the public at that time. Corporation was the big C word. Needless to say, it was about standing up against an evil corporate executive, Mr. McMahon. And nowadays we don't really have that. Though we had the authority with Triple H and his wife Stephanie McMahon for a long while there, taking on members of the Shield. For a while they had the reunited Evolution minus Ric Flair. They had a beef going on for a while there. But the problem was, it just, the storyline, it just wasn't the same. There's no risky promos. There's no powerful storylines. There's no power. It needs a lot of power thrust into everything that's got, whether it's wrestling in the ring, storylines, situations, stipulations. I spoke about this in many vlogs I did in the past on my channel, and so far I'm wondering, and sadly, it's not really. I can't really go on anymore. Now, you know what? We should probably get Jacob RP on the call because he spoke a few times how disgruntled he is with pro wrestling. I'm gonna see if I can add him to the call. So go ahead, Art. What you got? Go ahead.
You got Cronin too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm surprised he's not calling in on this subject. Well,
yeah, that's the whole deal. Is when wrestling was hot, they had storylines that expanded over weeks, not just the same night. And they tried that, from what I'm gathering from the Bloodline thing.
Yes.
Where that kind of developed and went on and on and on. And they're kind of doing it with Judgment Day. Because Bloodline's still kind of a thing from what I understand, but it's...
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you play this Jim Cornette talking about Ryback?
Wait, let me, tell you what, let me get everything so everybody else can hear. Give me a couple minutes here. So, we gotta talk about that. Prince is still on mute for some reason.
Looks like he just left.
I know, I just noticed that myself. It's like, geez, man, what the hell? You want to be on the show, but you keep leaving for some dumb reason. All right, so, and let alone not saying anything. Give me a couple minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling Jacob RP right now to give his take on what wrestling needs to be done. Because, remember, him and I were supposed to do that wrestling show many months back, last year to be exact, to talk about what's wrong with it nowadays. Still calling right now. I'll give it a couple of minutes there. And Jacob is unavailable, unfortunately, there. Son of a name goat. Alright, so give it a couple of minutes here to play. Now, as you know, Ryback, YR, both SC Steve called on Ryback's YouTube program. It's simply called The Ryback Show. And I'm going to play the response from Mr. Jim Cornette, who also has a disgruntlement towards today's pro wrestling spectrum.
Questions about Ryback. I don't know what exactly he's up to, because it seems like every one of these emails or tweets is about a different topic.
All right.
Here's one sent on Twitter using the hashtag Horny Drive-Thru from Ben Platt. Thoughts on Ryback being an absolute head again, getting out in his place. Yeah, that's what it says. And getting out in his place by the legendary Hall of Famer Booker T.
I bet that should have been a P, put in his place.
And then I have a tweet here from Booker T. The invitation is rescinded for Ryback. Making demands for you to come to my show says a whole lot. You don't really want to have a conversation. So apparently there was an offer for Ryback to come to Booker T's show. Booker T rescinded it.
Ryback made. What were these demands? With the brown M&Ms? Did he want a limousine? What were the demands?
I don't know. I have another one here that was just sent in. Ryback, I guess on Instagram, put out an image of him and Goldberg. Says, "Feed me Goldberg." Despite WWE legally restricting my social media the last 7 years,
What?
you, in caps, great fans, kept me alive. We have a lot of work to do. But my story is just beginning. The truth always wins, and my hunger will never be fulfilled.
Oh,
And
gosh.
he tagged Goldberg.
You may remember his main line was, "Feed me more." That was one of the most cheesiest things I ever heard in my life, was that word. Feed me more. Give me a break. Let me get back to this clip here.
This isn't going away. And more people are going to see how corrupt this place was and still is. So apparently he's not just going to expose WWE, but Twitter better be on the lookout.
So he is really crazy, rather than this a gimmick, because he's just calling attention to the fact that nobody gives a fuck about him anymore on his social media, right? And he's claiming that the WWE is going to, at least time and effort, if not expense, to keep people from following Ryback on Twitter.
Well, I have another. Well, this is a rather long. How the fuck did he? He must pay. I guess if you pay for Twitter Blue, I didn't realize they let you just tweet out as many characters as you want. But here's something from May 21st. I've taken care of my mother for the last 8 years, and my father is 74, and while active, is aging and slowing down. It is up to me to help take care of them. I need my social media working and my full reach.
What?
Elon Musk, I need my Twitter fixed. I can't advertise and have very little reach. This has been done to me on all social media platforms now. I'm asking for someone to help. What is going on is not right, and I have not violated any rules. The truth is going to win. But it's been 7 years, and I need this fixed and made right.
What the fuck?
I'm scheduling a trip to San Francisco and will not leave until I get to speak with someone if this doesn't get fixed. Everything I do revolves around being able to be seen through organic traffic and advertising. I've had hundreds of cases closed everywhere with no answers other than
What is he babbling about?
You know who we should hook him up with? Him and Raka Khan.
There you go. She could represent him. So what he's saying is,
And that's not even close to done, but go ahead.
he's got to, well, I'll let you, but he's got to take care of his mom and dad, which is very admirable.
Yeah, respect to
On
him for
Twitter,
that.
Reach out and get yourself a fucking job if you need to take care of your mom and dad. And
Yes, I agree there. And here, let me interrupt that for a second to say something here. Ryback at times tries to portray himself as the big thing. He was billed as to be the next Goldberg in WWE, and it just didn't cut the mustard, let alone the cheese. He was let go eventually, and the only time we ever saw him was in these fitness, health pills and all that stuff. I know Cronin played one of those commercials on his show Monetize This. It was all cheesy. Some overweight woman was complaining. Ryback clotheslines her into a pool. Woman comes out with a slim figure. Cheese automatic. That's all I have to say. And for what I understand, Ryback has been having issues with his YouTube show with a lot of trolls. I guess so. SC Steve and YR called on that program, just as well. It's when all those conversations were on, actually still on YR's channel, Hockey Channel 316. They'll definitely subscribe to that and check them out for sure. But, which brings up another idea that the WWE should do. Make real superstars. Because a lot of the superstars they had in the past were really all that superstars. Even King Kong Buddy said many of the superstars in WWE don't dress or look like superstars, you know? They come out with cheesy moves and cheesy gimmicks. You know, we've seen that many times before. In fact, YR told me that a wrestler from the comic era of the WWE, when it was still the WWF, passed away not so long ago. I guess his nickname, his gimmick name was Mandador, I believe it was.
Mandador. Yeah, Mandador.
Mandador, yes. And
you and Jim Cornette are so wrong about Ryback because, look, in Ryback's eyes, he's thinking that WWE is suppressing the social media, which WWE is in conjunction with Twitter and other social media platforms. So that does kind of make sense. And Ryback, and you would say, oh, why would WWE want to silence Ryback? Well, Ryback is one of the few wrestlers who, if not the only one, that was in the current system that kind of exposes it, pretty much.
I see. And
Like
you're
retired
sort of kind of afraid of him exposing everything within the WWE business and executive ranks.
That was the reason for them suppressing his social media. Now, what Cornette is saying is, it's not that. It's just not that many people follow you like you think. Which,
sure there.
Okay, that might be true, but we need to remember Ryback, they were going to basically replace, or they were replacing John Cena with Ryback. Like, Ryback was going to take his spot because John Cena was getting into Hollywood more time. And obviously, like, Ryback had the injuries and everything. But, like, he was an important part of that time of WWE, like, 10 or so, 7, 8, 9 years ago, or 7 years ago, whatever, right? And he was important. You know what I'm saying? Like, his merch sales were right at what Cena's was. And then they stopped making, because what he's saying, like, you might think when you listen to him, and that's the problem. Like, when you hear someone say, oh, that guy's a scumbag, listen to it yourself. You can't just go off someone else's saying, really. And this is a perfect situation, because, like, everyone, thinks Ryback is mean and a bully and all that, when it's really the opposite. Like, he has a business with a supplement line. That's what I'm saying. He had the same amount of sales and merch tied with John Cena, but then he was saying, like, they stopped making new items for him, so it dwindled. And obviously Cena has the new items and everything, new colors.
Yep.
So, like, what Ryback's saying makes sense, but it's obviously it's easy to pick on that. Like, oh, this guy's just crabby and he's just butthurt about WWE, like what Cornette was saying. But I think Cornette's wrong because he has a beef with Ryback. But Ryback went off today, bro. He was saying, Booker T, he went off at Booker T. Because the Booker T thing, Booker T said, oh, Ryback demanded all this stuff. Ryback today said, no, he didn't. Because, Booker T descended the invitation, basically took it back. And Booker T's excuse was because Ryback had these demands. But Ryback's saying, no, there was no demands. The problem was WWE got in contact with Booker T and said, no, don't have this guy on type thing. That's what Ryback's saying, which makes way more sense. And honestly, I'm on Ryback's fucking side, like, on all this. Like, all these people coming at him, like, trying to blackball him. He's going to come back. He's going to get an AEW deal, bro. He just has, like, this shoulder thing right now. He's good, but, like, he wants to be 100% healthy, no issues, blah, blah, blah. He's going to make this big comeback. He's going to do this match with Goldberg, and then he's going to get an AEW deal. And, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's going to be.
Well, I hope that AEW, he signs with AEW. In fact, Oh, I thought you said something. Anyways, I'm hoping he does get a better deal with WWE, where he's able to be more creative with himself there. because a lot of times many of the WWE rosters are kind of putting these positions where they have to say certain things that they don't really want to say there. In fact, Dean Ambrose, before he left to become John Moxley, he was very disgruntled with the way WWE was going on. And one of the things that really disgusted him was one of the promos that Seth Rollins, where he discussed Roman Reigns' cancer issue that he was having at that time. And then Ambrose thought that was a low thing to do and decides, screw it, I'm done with this company. He signs with AEW, becomes a big success as John Moxley. But then again, you got to remember that, a lot of times many wrestlers have issues with the company on how things are done. Many wrestlers within the WWE have egos and the huge demands, like Jeff Jarrett and the Ultimate Warrior, for example. There, he was Ultimate Warrior wanted the same kind of paycheck that Hulk Hogan was making. He wanted the same revenue that Hogan was making. He was getting out of line with his demands. And finally, McMahon decided, he's had enough. Great job, Warrior. Backstage, he said to him, great job, Jim Hellwig. Oh, by the way, you're fired. He was let go right then and there. Now, they did bring him back towards near the Attitude Era, taking on then known as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But then again, that obviously didn't work out that pretty much well. It's kind of hard to see the Ultimate Warrior, a cartoon WWE version of Thor, the God of Thunder, in an era where it was all about being realistic, getting into real issues. Now, keep in mind, the Warrior came back briefly in WCW. He did a couple of matches with Hulk Hogan, and apparently he disappeared just as well there. Now, one of the things about WWE I got to bring up, is something that I'm kind of like still on debate about there. I did a video on this when I was still working at the golf club there about Owen Hart and the situation that happened with him. Now, as you know, Owen Hart was given this storyline where he has a high school crush on Deborah, who was involved with, not romantically in real life, but with Jeff Jarrett. Owen didn't think it was a good idea because he said his wife Martha would not be happy with that whatsoever. Russo, apparently, who came up with the idea, said, okay, we'll come up with something else there. Now, according to Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Vince McMahon heard about this, was not too happy about Owen refusing the storyline. So they punished Owen, putting him as the Blue Blazer, a gimmick that he had originally before becoming Owen Hart when he first arrived at the WWF, as it was known at that time. Then, that Over the Edge pay-per-view comes about. Russo comes up with an idea. Hey, let's give him a superhero entrance. Let's have him coming down from the rafters, from the top of the building, like they do with Sting. And when he was in WCW as the Crow Sting, keep in mind. And this, before this idea came about, the guys that lowers wrestlers from the top of the rafters onto the ring, they contacted the WWF and say, hey, you got anything for us to do? We'd like to work with you just as well there. So they get the gig, and all of a sudden something screws up, whether the latches was not on correctly or something was too loose. But Owen plunges how many feet into the ring, strikes his head, dies instantly. Bim, bam, boom. Everybody is shocked. Now, many have speculated that WWF should have stopped the pay-per-view, period, after that. One of them was, of course, Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen's older brother. He said, he definitely condemned Vince McMahon for that because, Vince wanted to keep that money rolling, had to keep that pay-per-view going no matter what. But then again, they had a lot of advertisers pouring money into this pay-per-view, and all of a sudden, be shut down would be kind of like be very costly for both the WWF and some of the sponsors. Either way, one of their performers died tragically, and as a result from that, I guess the guys who repelled these wrestlers onto the ring from up top of the rafters, they were probably unemployed for ages. Because after that, we no longer saw Sting be repelled from the rafters, and no wrestler has had that done to them in God knows how many years after that. Now, one thing I was interesting is that it's AEW that is hosting the Owen Hart Foundation, when AEW didn't exist when Owen Hart was still alive. So can someone tell me how that came about? Was it one of Owen's family members who came with that idea to Mr. Tony Khan? Or what? Ark?
Well, I kind of think Tony Khan was cashing in.
Yeah. So, so my question is this. You think Tony Khan will not make the same mistakes that Eric Bischoff did in WCW when he was running that company? Is he playing his hand pretty cool at this moment there?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, right there. Now, for a while, AEW was often mocked as the company where old WWE wrestlers go to die. Somebody said that over the internet like once or twice there. But none of the wrestlers who used to be with the WWE have passed on. Thank goodness. But at the same time, it's kind of, you got to see where these guys are coming from. Most of them were let go back in 2020 during the pandemic. Now, there were speculations that it was budget cuts that costed the careers of these wrestlers, including Ruby Riott, now known as Ruby Soho. It was also, I think Mark Henry was let go just as well there. The big shock to everyone was when he let go of Bray Wyatt the way they did. Apparently he was having issues with the WWE executives. They were going to do this with his character, The Fiend. They were going to do that. And Wyatt just wanted to protect his gimmick, full throttle. Because they will come up with ideas to screw up that gimmick. Whichever gimmick you have going on that's successful. I mean, look what WCW did with Bill Goldberg. He had this tremendous long winning streak. Let's have that streak broken. And that was one of the factors in that company closing down. When the Undertaker's winning streak at WrestleManias, when that was broken by Brock Lesnar, everybody was in shock. Thank goodness, the Undertaker's career didn't suffer, because after all, he's a legend. He's the dead man walking. He's the American badass. The man is such an icon, and he always has been considered the voice of reason whenever some conflicts occur backstage.
Yes, Dr. Brown, this is Mark Calloway. And I was going to ask you, what's your favorite time of The Undertaker, my character? Was it the 90s? Or was it when I rode out in the motorcycle? Or
no, I will say I do a my
faction, the Ministry of Darkness.
Well, I have to say the Ministry of Darkness was kind of a interesting spot for the Undertaker because here he had become this Anton LaVey in the combat sports world.
Because you like the gothic robes and everything.
I do, and by the way, I also dig the long leather black trench coat that he wore on the occasion when he rolled out on that motorcycle. That was badass. And I remember there was a WWF magazine that had the Undertaker, the old Undertaker, with a lot of other creatures in the night on motorcycles behind him. That was an interesting cover there.
It's the Costanza in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So take a shit and eat it. Piece of shit.
No, that guy is.
Costanza's cool, dude. He is. What up, Costanza?
I don't think it's really him. I think it's a troll account.
We'll have to wait and see.
Call in,
Costanza, if you're available, dude, feel free to call him. I did a show with him one time to talk about all these scammers on the internet there when I was still in Texas. I had to add him to the call.
I still put the call block on the telemarketers, but I seem to get phone calls all the time from them.
Usually that'd be with Bullfrog.
I try to go down and buy a carton of cigarettes, but it's not working.
All right. So, YR, what suggestion do you have to make wrestling watchable again?
No women's wrestling, no women wrestling. We need to have them be the manager only. And
or a valet?
No blood, because that's way overdone in AEW. They need to.
I know WWE stopped that ages ago.
Now, what AEW does that WWE doesn't do is AEW does cuss and use curse words like shit and ass and asshole and damn and hell. WWE doesn't do the cussing.
That's true.
So automatically there, that's a win. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's not anything no one can do to make wrestling great again, because there's two great big companies right now, and it doesn't seem to draw nothing but their bubble, their wrestling bubble. Like we went to Judas Priest concert.
Yeah.
You know, Judas Priest draws Judas Priest fans or casual, metal fans of that sort.
Or newborns.
The bubble, bro. Yeah, it's the bubble. No new ones, Dr. Brown. It's the bubble. No new fans going to Judas Priest, or else they would be like Iron Maiden with their touring. Because Iron Maiden's touring compared to Judas Priest is way bigger. And that's right. Like, there's a bigger fan base for Iron Maiden. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why Priest be doing the theater shows. Iron Maiden be doing these huge. It's different. You know what I'm saying? And no one's fault. It's just what it is. So it's like these two big wrestling companies, they can't draw past 1 million. If that, 200,000, 250,000, probably, really, be honest, compared to like the 9 to 12 million they were drawing in the 90s. And that has to go with, at the end of the day, you have to blame the internet, Dr. Brown, and just the business being exposed.
Yeah,
and, because, look, we talk about it, but when we were kids and watching wrestling, we thought it was real, and we went along with everything, and we loved it.
Yeah, all of us did.
Obviously, adults are going to say it's fake, but maybe wrestling is just a made for kids thing. At the end of the day, if you think about it, because they're always going to believe. Because watching wrestling as a child is way different than watching it
as an adult.
I mean, number one, was it really better, or were we just kids and we thought everything's cool that we wouldn't think?
I think it was probably both, but because we were kids, it was like new, it was fascinating for us because here were these characters that were like in Super Bowl presence. I mean, like the good guy versus the bad guy. It's like Justice League versus the Legion of Doom. It was like it was different, but going back to being appealing to kids, the WWF was. I remember back at one of the local stations, they would broadcast
women's wrestling.
Superstars of Wrestling on Saturday morning. It's at 11 a.m.
Hello, can I talk 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Let me tell you how women wrestling sucks.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch, give me an example. It's like when look, I'm not necessarily calling people like an animal or a dog, but just picture in your head a nice greyhound running naturally, and it looks great and everything. Going around a track, right? Greyhound race.
Yes.
Great. That's men's wrestling. It looks great. It's great. Now imagine a race with like those bulldogs, like the fat bulldogs. That's women's wrestling. Not calling them fat, but it just looks. They try to do the moves that the men do, and the men are much physically stronger looking and taller and everything.
Yes.
That when they try to do those moves, it looks horrible. Like a woman, like the women wrestlers bouncing off the ropes. The rope doesn't even move half the time. When you bounce the men off the ropes, you can see that rope move, and you're like, oh my! I mean, they're bigger, they're larger than life. Like when it's that's why I have nothing against women. It's just it doesn't do nothing for me. It's not entertaining. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why they never had it back in the day. Really, like China, right?
Yeah.
And some others, and then obviously in the
Fabulous
2000s.
Moolah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not entertaining to me. It looks. They just make it look faker, to be honest, when women wrestle.
Like one of them.
They're not strong like that.
Yeah.
You know they're not strong like that. They're not strong as a man.
Right.
And when they try to do the same stuff the men do, it's fake because they really couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true there.
It pisses me off.
Well, a lot of them are there just for the looks. I mean, like you go to Twitter, see how much praise Liv Morgan, Dr. Britt Baker, Sonya Deville, they all get their respect for all the males, diehard fans out there. And they're saying Liv Morgan is beautiful, Alexa Bliss is beautiful. The hottest women in pro wrestling history, the hottest girls out there. A lot of the women out there in the pro wrestling circuit nowadays try to look sexy, too sexy.
Real quick, I'll say this: what's her name? That's in the Judgment Day. She is entertaining.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley, and she is built.
Basically, the new Paige for WWE. Basically.
Yep. Paige with the China physique.
Vagina.
Yeah. Yeah, she did a porn tape, by the way, with Shawn Walton, X-Pac, by the way. You may remember that scenario going down. And by the way, speaking of China, many people have said that her death, her diving into drugs and alcohol like she did, was caused by her fiance, Triple H, decided to go with Stephanie McMahon. And McMahon, apparently Stephanie didn't really like China. And I guess after a short while this happened, they decided to let her go.
China, vagina.
Yeah, I know. Well, my bad for that. But is it safe to say that Stephanie McMahon getting involved with her fiance kind of like started the downward spiral of China?
No.
No? Well, I had to say this. Yeah, we understand she was hurt bad. Yeah, I understand she was pissed off and angry that she just lost her fiancé and got dumped from the company afterwards. But choosing drugs and alcohol is not the way.
He's playing with tinfoil.
Not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Hmm?
The Doors are doing a reunion with Scott Stapp of Creed.
Really? That's something there.
Remember when they did that though?
Remember, I think that it was with Ian Asbury from the Cult who did that tour.
I know, because I remember probably that too, but I remember Scott Stapp doing Creed songs once. I mean, Doors songs once.
Yeah.
But it's already in Blabbermouth, Brown, like the rumors of the Creed 2024 reunion.
I see.
Because it's 20th anniversary of, I think they said Human Clay.
Yes.
You got to go to that show, bro. Please. You would never hit that, really?
I was not that hip on that group, unfortunately, there.
Someone look up how much. Can you look up how much albums they sold?
Let me see here on the internet there. In the meantime, let's Art give his idea on what on the topics we're talking about. Because
Human Clay album sales, Human Clay.
Art, do you think that women's wrestlers today are trying to look all sexy and stuff compared to wrestlers in the past like Wendy Richter, Leilani Kai, Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young? Art?
And the one that was involved with the Hardys, I forgot her name.
Hardys, Lita. Yes, that was her name. Oh, Trish,
yeah, Lita.
Trish Stratus.
And Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
Now, Trish did look good, but she was also athletic.
Yeah, she is. She's still athletic. She does some stuff with the WWE occasionally, I guess. She also did a movie called Bounty Hunters. She plays one herself there. Very physique woman there. Very physique woman. Definitely no doubt about that. I expect her to be a superhero.
Well, and actually, in today, the only one I see is physically capable, I suppose, for lack of a better term, is Charlotte Flair.
Ashley Flair is her real name, by the way, there. I just gave her the name Charlotte because it probably sounded a little bit better.
Well, yeah, but I'm calling by the wrestling name because that's the one we all know.
Yeah, I'm letting everybody know that for those who didn't know. Her real name is Ashley. And so far, she, of course, she's, of course, Ric Flair's daughter, so you're going to definitely inherit that technique of pro wrestling. Definitely for sure there. Now, there's something I got to say about, I guess the problem with women's wrestling, according to many others, is that, it's, as Wire pointed out, it's all about show, all flash, but no gash, I think, yep. Go ahead.
They did. I was on the storm at Woodstock 99. Creed.
Yeah, I remember. And by the way, probably the most grittiest moment in pro women's wrestling was that one match between Dr. Britt Baker and what's her name there, where Britt Baker was had blood coming out of her face there.
She had blood coming out of her orifices, her vagina, her asshole.
Oh gosh, dude.
Tony Khan had to run down to the ring and a bunch of tampons and pads and.
Oh gosh. Oh, by the way,
that's how women bleed in wrestling.
Only women bleed. That song just came to my mind when you mentioned that.
Would you ever put a chick's used tampon in your mouth?
Hell no.
For the vampire
hell
blood
no,
effect?
Hell no. We know someone who will probably, but we know. Go ahead.
You like to mix pints of blood and put it in your freezer at night. So
wait a minute, I got this to say. There's somebody we all know and we can't stand who probably do that because that's the only poontang you'll be able to get at this point. I won't say who, but we know who we're talking about. Anyways, so what happened with Prince Idol? He was all geeked up to doing the show, and he just went silent and went off for some reason. Disappeared. And I know Jedi Knight in my chat says WWE needs to get rid of all those titles they have. There's way too many. Glad you brought that up, buddy. Because they got how many titles? I mean, How many titles does Roman Reigns have right now currently? 3. They have the Raw SmackDown Championships. They have the Raw and Smack. They have all these titles. They have the 24/7 title. They have all these titles here. Back then, it was just the tag team titles, women's title, the world title, and the intercontinental title. WCW had the cruiserweight title, the world title, tag team titles. You know, I remember back in the NWA, there was the television champion title that Magnum TA held on to for many years. Now, I think possibly the 24/7 title thing was definitely a gimmick to get some laughs and from the audience watching, that's for sure. Because that whole thing with whoever whoever had that title had to defend it 24/7 from everybody coming for it. You never know who's going to win that championship there. It could be one of the referees themselves, or it could be one of the janitors. That I admit was kind of unique, kind of a little laugh along the way there. All right. Now, what do you think wrestling should do to make itself great again? You know. And before we if Wire is still on the line here, he left a call. Oh, wow. So I guess it's you and I, Ark. Now, it would be nice to have Shawn Entertainment on the call to give his take on the whole thing, on how to fix this combat sport. It would be better if we had Vince Russo on the show. I know I added him on Skype.
Sadly, that ain't going to happen.
I know, that's true. We're just like a small show compared to all the bigwigs that he speaks to. Alright, so.
But the big thing for me is continuous storylines that make sense. Wrestling has been called a soap opera for men.
Yep.
To do that, you got to have the stories.
Absolutely. And there hasn't been that much stories within AEW's ranks. And the storylines within the WWE ranks have needed to improve a lot in terms of storylines, words to say, promos, that sort of thing. That's what it needs. Heck, I've been speaking about this for God knows how many times in the past. All right, so.
And they got to be believable.
Absolutely, very believable.
They can't be cartoonish.
Yeah. WWE, when it was still called the WWF, had that going on for a long time there, and that's what was costing that company money. A lot of gimmicks they were coming out with wasn't really cutting it. I mean, like Duke the Dumpster Droshi was one cheesy gimmick. It's time to take out the trash. Coming out there with a trash can in his hand and the lid. They also had this
Dr. Yankum.
Oh my gosh, Glenn Jacobs, one of his first gimmick. The guy who would later play Kane. That was the last name alone is kind of like a somewhat of a laughable joke, hence the name Yankum. A psychotic dentist there. Let's also not forget the fake Diesel they had for a while, played by the same guy.
Yep.
Yes, and the fake Razor Ramon. And I understand the guy who portrayed him, he passed away a couple years ago there, sadly. And I guess the intent of that was to prove to everybody that they owned the names and the characters Diesel and Razor Ramon. When Scott Hall and Kevin Nash arrived at WCW, they had to go by their real names. And I guess there was some flack coming from the WWF towards Scott Hall for using the, hey, Chico, yo, with that Razor Ramon talk that he used to do all the time. But then again, That's how Scott Hall often occasionally talked at times. Now, I remember him from AWA when he came in as like the do good, Dudley do right, superhero type of guy. He spoke a little bit more different, and he looked way different than he did in years on down the line. And of course, I guess
Well, when he first came in, he and Kevin Nash first came in to WCW.
Yep, absolutely. Hall was the Diamond Stud. Nash was a character named Oz, based on the Wizard of Oz, from what I understand there. He later became Vinny Vegas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both managed by Diamond Dallas Page.
DDP, who's now credited as the man who has saved Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, another thing I want to bring up is the drug use that goes on within these companies. Now, Page got suspended for violating their WWE's wellness policy. And we hear many stories of all the past performers like Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Shawn Michaels being a pill popper and stuff. Gilbert being addicted to somas, which are muscle relaxers. You got to keep in mind, and I've mentioned this before a few times in the past there, many of these wrestlers put their bodies and their lives on the line to do what they do to entertain the people out there. That includes being landing on their hips, landing on their knees, their elbows, and everything else.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear me. Prince, where you been, man?
Taking care of business.
Oh, I see. I see there. All right.
Responsive. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, that's good there. So what do you have to add to this conversation? How make wrestling great again? What are your suggestions?
They need to build up more superstars. They need to build up more superstars. Not like CM Punk or John Cena. I'm on like Randy Savage and Shawn Michaels. And they need to give us more cliffhangers at the end of the show and more cliffhangers in the beginning of the show. Like, really give us storylines like they used to do. They don't give us storylines no more.
Yeah, it's true. Their AEW spoke about that.
Keep up with it.
Yeah. I know AEW needs to do that. Ark spoke about that not too long ago there. It's just get in there, wrestle without any reason why there.
Yeah.
Now, I think you also need to come up with a lot more stipulations in the storylines just as well there. Like, if you will do this to me, I will do that to you. Just mark my words. Like, I remember this one, a storyline between the beef between the Anderson brothers and Magnum TA. There was supposed to, Magnum was supposed to have a partner with him to go after the Andersons. Ole and Arn, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, as they're often referred to as.
Now the NW. This is NWA I showed you?
Yes.
Ben Perro is managing a great tag team, and they're from Mexico City, and this team is good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Perro, they're good. They're so good, dude.
Oh, really? I'm still subscribed to the NWA channel. I should probably check it out there sometime.
This tag team, man, that Ben Perro has been managing. These guys are so freaking good. If you like Lucha Libre, you'll love these guys. These guys been managed by Conan, Ben Perro. They've been around Rey Mysterio. They've been around a lot of other luchadors. And these guys, I'm telling you, they're so good. I love this tag team. I never seen a tag team that reminds me of Demolition and Hawk and Warrior. That's what they remind me of. They remind me of Hawk and Warrior, but they come from Mexico City.
Demolition, you said? That was Axe and Smash. Hawk and Warrior was both the Road Warriors and Legion of Doom in the WWF.
Yes.
And for what I understand, they couldn't use the Road Warriors name because obviously Road Warrior was it was based on the Mel Gibson movie, the sequel to Mad Max, back in 1980 there. And I guess for some reason, but then again, WWF or WWE has been known to change things around. For example, Medusa Maselli, when she came as Alundra Blaze, they had to go with that name because, Vince McMahon wanted to own the rights to the Medusa name. To Miss Maselli said, nope, 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 so they came up with the compromise. Priscilla Kelly, who was once married to Darby Allin, she had to go under a new name, like Gigi Dolan. She's currently in NXT right now. WWE has been known to add little something gimmicky to the wrestler's persona, make him be something different there.
Oh, I didn't even notice YR's gone.
Yeah, he left. He left a short while before you came back there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I do apologize, but at least my presence was here, guys.
All right, sir. So, I think we'll end this show as it is right now. We threw out some suggestions, we threw out some ideas on how to make it great once again. Hopefully, one of the wrestling writers on the internet, or possibly my friend on Facebook and on Twitter and on Twitch, Ashley Rose Nova, will definitely take a heed to this broadcast. And by the way, she's more of an Impact Wrestling gal there. Her favorites are the Motor City Machine Guns with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. She's big on that tag team there. Want to give her a shout out, by the way.
You're right.
And we should also give a shout out to Vince Russo for bringing up this subject, because we all been disgruntled with it for many years there, on how wrestling has been going. It'll be nice, like I said, it'll be nice to have him on the call, but he'll be like, whatever there. It probably doesn't even give a rat's ass about this show there, because it's such a small channel. Though I did call in on this show Full Moon Attitude one time back in 2020. And by the way, Prince, do you see the NWA getting up from its slump pretty soon there? Because I saw a couple of videos detailing the situation within that company and how some of their main roster members left during the pandemic because they had to earn a paycheck. NWA, they don't. It's not as big as the WWE or AEW. It's still a small-based company, and many of the wrestlers like Ricky Starks, Thunder Rosa, they had to depart from that company because they wanted to keep wrestling and earn money for themselves and their families. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, they were not able to do that. They had to come up in its place, these shows like Nick Aldis, the National Treasure. He had a podcast it was called What's Causing All This? Get it? Now, I get Fitz to say that probably the main star that's kind of like helping carrying that company have to be Camille. Kaylee Farmer, who's one built physique woman herself. She's one athletic gal herself there. If you ever see her on the internet there, she's worth checking out. All right there. So we basically gave it our ideas on the suggestions how to make wrestling great again. And I guess we'll end the show as it is, We'll, since it is going on 8 p.m. now here in the Eastern Time Zone, I got some stuff to take care of.
Okay.
All right there. Want to give a shout out to Arknoia, Stroker Bean. Go to his Patreon and sign up for that. Patreon.com/Arknoia. You get lots of good content worth listening to. Me, Keith, YR make a couple appearances on there just as well. And for Ark, YR, and Prince Idol, myself, you guys